Welcome to a fireside chat with Northeastern University DeMoore-McKim School of Business and Vroozi.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to our fireside chat. I have Roy Anderson with me today. My name is Mike Judd. I'm the Senior Director of Customer Experience at Vroozi. I have the great job of working with companies to make sure they become better at buying and paying invoices digitally. With that, we use our solution Vroozi, which is helping companies to be more digital in their procure-to-pay processes. With Vroozi, at Northeastern, the students there had a chance to use Vroozi, so they could become more familiar with the tools that the procurement professionals use in their daily lives to make more digital processes and, like I said, pay invoices and buy digitally with more efficiency, more control, more visibility. With that, I know Roy Anderson. I've worked with him many times over. And he is the most digital CPO, Chief Procurement Officer I know. He's also the most innovative person that I met in that capacity too. And Roy has brought with him to Northeastern DeMoore-McKim School of Business an innovative program that has helped students to learn more about innovation in procure-to-pay processes. So Roy, if you don't mind, briefly introduce yourself to the audience, and then I'll start asking you about the program.
Okay, that sounds good, Mike. Thanks. So Roy Anderson, I have the honor to be a lecturer here at Northeastern DeMoore-McKim School of Business. After 40 years of working in supply chain, I started way back in the last century working with Raytheon, learned an awful lot, put in place electronic data interchange from mainframe to small suppliers. And at that time, I learned that technology was going to transform the way supply chain ran. And I knew that if I didn't stay in front of the technology, I was going to get run over by it. And I had the opportunity of working with companies like Textron, then Fidelity Investments, and the Chief Procurement Officer at John Hancock at MetLife for a decade. And then with my own company, we started with Sandeep Goba at GoProcure and had just an enormous opportunity to really make a difference in the supply chain space. And now I'm full-time here at the DeMoore-McKim School of Business and enjoying teaching students what supply chain really means.
Oh, fantastic. Roy, I know you just recently won the 2023 DeMoore-McKim Teaching Innovation Excellence Award. And this is for your Supply Chain Virtual Innovation Lab that we're about to talk about. And that's the reason we're meeting today in the fireside chat. Can you tell us about the genesis of the program, what that you created at Northeastern University and the inspiration behind it?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, my entire career has been how do I bring technology, skill set, design, appropriate third-party expertise, and then managing the budget to be able to optimize the supply chain. With the concept that a company the size of a MetLife, there's 20,000 suppliers, and you'd have a very small team of 60 activists trying to manage that spend. So the only way to get that done is through technology. So as I moved out of the implementing technology in the supply chain field, I was looking at Northeastern and I said, I can tell a lot of stories. I can go over the textbook, but realistically, these students need to understand how digital data is utilized and created and how technology like Vroozi allows us to speed that process through in order to be able to get the data necessary to be able to get to that next level, which is where artificial intelligence is going to actually make the next generation, next transformative approach to how supply chains are being managed. So Northeastern had the opportunity. The students were really interested, incredibly talented, educated students. And if we bring the right technology into play and have them be able to play with it, work with it, it really opened up their minds as to this is out of the textbook and into being active in the real business world.
Yeah, I think you said it right there, right? When it's more hands-on, you're going to learn a lot more, right? The textbook is a model that they've had since I've been around in school, right? But now getting into technology and being hands-on, I'm sure helped them to learn things a lot better.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity to have them get excited about utilizing it and seeing the stretch from the very beginning where we're using dashboard technology and spend analytics technology and allowing them to understand category strategy, then moving into an e-sourcing solution set and having that negotiation go through with all the terms and conditions and quality, service, and delivery, and then moving into the Vroozi environment, which allows you to then place orders, process them out to your suppliers, bring the invoices in effectively. It's been eye-opening for them as they saw the end-to-end process, which is interesting because we're doing things in a matter of a 12-week semester. And some of the companies that I've worked with, it would take 6 to 9 months just to get the concept approved. And we're in a matter of 3 months, we're actually driving it, utilizing it, implementing all those pieces, and then letting the students see the results.
Yeah. It's almost like a capstone course because they're seeing the whole thing, right? And I guess from there, do they go and delve into specific courses after that? Like maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it's capsule, but this is actually their entry level course. So I wanted to get them excited about the whole idea of what is a digital supply chain. I mean, realistically, you study some of the details of these activities and it gets a little slow. But when you start to realize that you're dealing with thousands, if not tens of thousands of suppliers with thousands of categories, actually one of the eye-opening pieces of this is to be able to see how a spend analytics program breaks down into the categories all the way from facilities to construction to facilities management into cleaning and painting, and realizing each of those categories has their own set of criteria that needs to be developed to determine, well, what's the right suppliers for this environment, for this internal customer at this point in time. That includes things, not just, obviously total cost, but quality, service, delivery. And then you go into the fun stuff of sustainability, carbon footprint, innovation in that space. What's the technological footprint, the ability to be digital in this space. And then obviously risk mitigation. After COVID, everyone now realizes risk is a big deal in the supply chain, and there's risk everywhere. When you're in the painting world, if you have the wrong type of paint, if you're in the landscaping, if you're using the wrong type of chemicals, if you're, your HVAC systems, there's just so many nuances to every category. And that's actually the fun part, because I don't know which category the students are going to pick from the spend analytics. So I just lay it out, say, well, whichever category you pick, then you have to go dive into what that category strategy is, and in order to put it together into a organized bid structure. And then they realize that trying to get that category strategy and be able to create questions so suppliers can answer it is a challenge.
Wow, that's amazing. Actually, you surprised me on entry level because so procure to pay, obviously at the end of the process in the source to pay, right? By the time it came to us, they had already done those things that you were talking about. So they were pretty well versed in the language, the process. So when you said entry level now, it didn't dawn on me because they were really well prepared when we talked.
Most of the students that you're working with are freshmen. And what I'm trying to do, and Dr. Nyaga, who's the head of the program, who's been so phenomenal in terms of supporting this effort, was like, how do we get these students really excited about the fact that they can make a difference? And that's actually one of the fun things about being in the supply chain world, being in that procurement space, is that the changes we made in the criteria that added diversity and innovation and risk mitigation, sustainability, literally switches the way you choose your suppliers and which suppliers come to fruition, and therefore create a better environment. And the environment, the ecosystem you're dealing with, is not only just, once again, good quality service delivery, got it, total cost structure down, good. But it's how do they do? How do they deal with this, the society in where they're working? How have they done in terms of carbon footprint activity? How have they done in building out their own diversity program? And then have they brought in the technology necessary to be able to streamline their process? Because I want to make sure we have not only my first tier suppliers, but I want to have my first tier suppliers digitally connected to their suppliers, i.e. my second tier suppliers, so that we can streamline this whole flow. That's when AI gets really exciting, because now you start to take that millions of pieces of data and start making some analysis out of it. But it starts with, do you have a digital process in place?
Wow, what a great start. So they're really going to be prepared for all that technology and for the processes too. But love the things that you introduced. In fact, you mentioned that this would expand to more classes and more professors. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the hope. When we first started, when you and I first kicked this idea around, and you were the core of it, because I needed you, because you everything leads into the Vroozi solution set. That I needed. I started with just 2 classes with only 20 students in each class, and we basically babied this along. Adeshri Meher and Sarth did a great job of supporting the efforts. Those were my TAs. And then once we got it down, I said, okay, this works. Then my next 3 sets of classes, 2 undergraduate, 1 graduate, and Dr. Niaga's class. So we now have 140 students involved. Come September, the goal is that there will be 8 classes going, 300 some odd students running through this program. And then as they take the knowledge, Northeastern's Demora McKim School of Business, really big into co-ops. So all these students then end up in companies and start their co-op activity. They now have a good understanding of how this digital data works, and they can be that much more supportive of the companies that they're working for.
Yeah. We're looking to hire some of those folks too because now they know Vroozi very well.
Yeah, I'll tell you, that's the most exciting. That got the students excited, saying, "Listen, these Vroozi's growing, right? You have new and more customers coming on board that need this type of experience. Vroozi wants to support those customers more effectively. A real opportunity to grow both sides of this story. I think it's a win-win, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it.
Yeah, me too. Like I mentioned, I'm trying to help companies do better with technology. Now you're making my job easier with people just like that. I just go in and say, hey, it's us.
Having talented kids, and the fun part is some of these students are engineering backgrounds, marketing backgrounds, finance, economics, international business. They come in with lots of different plays, and they're from, I don't know, 15 countries around the world. So the number of languages they bring to the table, the cultural aspects, the different educational aspects they bring to the table opens up the discussion as to what's possible, because they see it from an engineering point of view, and then they see it from a finance point of view, and now they're seeing it from information systems and the digital data. It opens up the fact that these decisions that we're making can actually radically transform how industry is being perceived, how our dollars going into suppliers can drive a difference inside of communities. We just as a quick sidelight, we did an analysis once of taking companies' money, the John Hancock at the time, and we took those money, find out where does that money go when it goes into a diverse supplier. And then you realize it's not just the owner, their leadership is diverse, and the people they're hiring are diverse, and those salaries go into diverse communities for grocery stores and car dealerships and dry cleaners. It's a 10-to-1 return. That speed of money, the velocity of money is incredibly impactful to be able to drive a difference around your community.
Oh, fantastic. Now you make it sound easy, but I bet there were some challenges and roadblocks that you came across when you were launching this. Can you talk about
Well,
those?
yeah, so it's always interesting. So you have to sell all the players, right? There's a point of view from all these sides. The school wants to make sure that they get the students to the level they need to be. So you add in a whole new environment for them to go into. It's like, well, how are we going to make this work in such a short period of time? Then the whole legal side of things, because this is software, this is data that's going back and forth. The users are onto it. The legal team here at Northeastern was very good. They were very, appropriately concerned and actually moved through the process in a very convenient, appropriate way, and working with Vroozi's team to be able to bring this to closure quickly was good. Those are the little leaps and stops you have to do. The hardest part was then getting the students to say, okay, how does this work? We haven't done this before. We haven't seen this in any of our other classes. What are you trying to do? Because they obviously want to do well in class, and when you throw something brand new at them, they're like, okay, is this going to be fair and equitable, and how am I going to be graded on these types of things? So selling them is a crucial activity. So all in all, between working with you, working with the legal team, working with the students, and then setting up the syllabus so that it actually moves from one to the other efficiently, effectively within the time frames that we have. It's a dance. It's about that dance that you have to have.
That's fantastic. And I know when we started talking in the summertime, so you're giving up your summertime there and putting all this together, and you had to even get data. We had to find some data for you to use.
Oh,
And
and
you
that
got,
first time the data was that was limited data, right? So trying to get those first two out the door with what we had but then we were able to get a rush of new realistic data that we could pull that opened up the doors to show the complexity of spend analytics and show the complexity of category strategy. That I tell you, that really opened up. We have some of the students that just got really into spend analytics. They were data geeks. They're amazing, and then you could see them get excited. And now I've actually asked one of them, say, "Hey, could you help some of these other groups?" And they were like, "Yeah, let's go." They dive in. So there's a much greater amount of sharing of information and support in this. I was just incredibly impressed by how the students picked it up and ran with it, and then their responses is what made us decide that we'd go for this innovation award, because their responses was, "We need more of this. We need more of the opportunity to be able to touch real technology that real companies are using, so that we have a better understanding and can have that discussion with the co-op leaders and new companies going forward." And my hope is this actually will grow and develop with more technology, and then ultimately my end goal is that we can actually have an AI engine on top of it that can actually start to show trend analysis, and then possibly. We're working with the College of Professional Services here at Northeastern to be able to support young startup diverse suppliers to give them the opportunities. Like, well, how are these procurement people making this decision? Well, what's the criteria they're using? How are they selecting us over somebody else? And the more information they have, the more transparency, the more opportunity to go, oh, I didn't even realize that innovation was important, or risk mitigation was something that needed to be a part of. I just thought it was a lower price and I was going to go out of business because I couldn't afford it. But you realize it's a holistic structure. And once people understand that, then they can do a better job of bidding, giving them a better opportunity to win awards, which is going to be good for everyone.
It's just like you keep adding more and more. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it actually is fun.
Well, in fact, I thought you were going to talk about even configuring the systems. I mean, you managed to do that, like even during the semester. You managed to put together Vroozi, in fact, in just a couple of days, maybe a week, where other companies are doing that, over longer weeks of time. So I was very impressed with the students jumping in, configuring systems, and making it work in such a short
Well,
time.
you certainly made it easy by having the system somewhat set up, and then helping them along through that process, because it is. I mean, they've never seen it before. They're not, technology people necessarily, but once they're finished, and one of the best things is when they said, "Well, when we can work with Mr. Judd, he understands what we're trying to do, and he's helping us along, but then we're learning it." So it's a real value to them, and I want to thank you for all your work that you've done in that.
Oh, it was exciting working with them. Great students. I enjoyed it very much. In fact, we were really excited about it, and still are. But I actually want to ask you, what did you see that students learn in terms of the benefits of using, real procurement technology?
Well, I tell you, I try to relate it back to little simple things. Now, they go out to dinner every night, right? Once either in the campus or off campus, and everything happens in groups. I said, "Well, what makes you determine which restaurant you go to?" And then they start listing the criteria. Well, I only have $10, so it's got to be less than $10. It's got to be open. I'm only a walk to it, so it's got to be within 3 blocks of the area. The food's got to be good. So they literally list the criteria. I said, okay, now turn that into a company that's providing you laptops, or a company that's providing you consulting services. And they start to, you start to see how the complexity of the decisions. And then you start telling them, I said, oh, well, by the way, if you're in a company like MetLife, there's 60,000 internal customers, 20,000 suppliers that you're dealing with. So you need to sell them on these concepts. So change management becomes a major play. And one of the things that makes change easy is the concept of being easy. So a Vroozi that makes it so easy to order the products, and you have a digital output, which is the right supplier at the right price under the right contract, on time delivery, accurate from order to payment structure. Your supplier is happy, your internal customer is happy, your auditing people are happy, your finance person's happy. You can get the data to show where you've improved the total cost, the data to prove that you've brought in some new ideas, new thoughts, and you can spend more time on the innovative side. I believe that the supply chain has to be the innovation engine. One of the reports we did at the Innovation Summit was the fact that on average, A.T. Kearney came back and says 58% on average, now this could be lower or higher, of every revenue dollar goes out to suppliers. 58%. I mean, so you start to realize like it's how much the suppliers are driving your end product or service. And therefore, because you've outsourced so much work to experts in this space, you need to get the innovation from those. So one of the things that comes from this is as you digitize the process and it becomes more automated and self-service, it raises the skill level of the internal teams to be able to talk about innovation with the suppliers. And they said, okay, we're not messing around with errors and invoice problems and receiving problems. We're now like, how can you actually do this better? What do I do differently inside my organization that could actually improve how we work together on this? How do we make this happen with half the time or twice the output? Or what are the expensive parts of this that I can actually eliminate because I've requested you to do something? And that something costs you 2 or 3 hours every day. If we can eliminate that, there's another cost structure we can pull out. Those are the really interesting parts of the next generation.
Oh, that's fantastic. As you were talking too, I was thinking, wow, I can't wait for these students to hit the market where we can grab
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
But I know Northeastern's a co-op, so that kind of delays it a little bit, right?
Yeah, a little bit. They do basically 2 6-month co-ops within their environment. What I find is they come back from the co-op going, oh, do you know how these businesses do it? Whether they do it really well or they do it really poorly, they come back and say, okay, what you were telling us before, now what we're learning from this co-op activity, you see them just leap ahead in terms of what it means to be in a real world scenario where you're working, every day, whether hybrid or whatever it is, but you're seeing the difference and you can take the learning and put it into reality. It's I find it incredibly interesting. Those that come back from co-ops, they've learned a lot. They've taken it to the next level.
That's interesting. In fact, I would love to talk to somebody when they come back. Like, what did you see there? And then, they were probably able to say, well, you should be doing it this way. It's probably some of the conversations I have,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
So, no, that's fantastic. Let me ask you too, because it sounds like they enjoyed the program. What do you think they enjoyed most about the program?
What they enjoyed most, what I got from them, there's of course a lot of different opinions,
Yeah.
but at first they didn't understand this sequential activity that says, all right, we're going to manage the workload in a dashboard. We're going to then take this massive amounts of data and then drill it down so that we understand what's the category structure. So you see a different team doing the spend analytics, and then that team taking that information saying, what are the criteria to make a better decision? Who are the suppliers that we're using today? Who are the suppliers we should be looking at in terms of more innovative? Because suppliers are changing all the time. Innovative suppliers are coming out, and you got to pull it. They don't have the marketing or sales force. You actually have to reach out and pull them into the process in order to be able to get a robust response for your bid activity. And then you take that criteria, and then the next group is then they're going, how do I make these into logical questions so my suppliers can answer it? And what you find is they spend a lot of time doing essay-like questions, just like school, where tell us all about and then of course I said, you don't have the time to read 100 essays for all these suppliers. You got to get it down to some qualitative and quantitative numbers to be able to at least separate those individuals that are not right for you and those individuals that are. So that was an enormous transition for them where they got excited about it. They started to realize that if you don't ask for the right criteria, it's not a part of the decision-making process. Let's go back to the restaurant. If you don't set a price limit and you just I want the best food I can, well, guess what? You're going to have a $150 meal and all you have is $10 in your pocket. So understand there's a budgeting issue here. Or you call mom and dad and say, hey, guess what?
That's true to life. I mean, that's
Yeah.
you have a budget problem when you go to that
So
extreme.
they get excited about that. And then I tell you, when they get it into the Vroozi environment and they start to realize, like, wait a minute, we use online ordering all day long. And then you start to realize how the ease of use allows people the change management. And I think more than anything else, they start to realize, oh, you've got to change 60,000 people to do it this way. Someone keeps telling me, it's like, well, it's like changing a battleship. I said, no, it's like changing 1,000 battleships. They all they all have to move in the same way. And you need tools like Baruzzi that are making it easy to get people to buy the right products from the right suppliers. And then it's going to go in the back end all accurately. So no time wasted on that. You can then, once again, as I said, you start spending more time on innovation and risk management. And the students, what they said is once they saw the whole string together, they realized, oh, all these pieces fit together to get into a better solution, and that you can actually make a difference. You can make a difference in your environment, in the results, in your carbon footprint. All those things are possible in this process.
I mean, that's great. That's amazing. And I was super impressed. Like I said, I had a chance to work with students. I was super impressed with the conversations that we had, and I caught the excitement too. And it was actually nice being at the end of the process too, because they had all that background coming in, and next thing you know, we're the next step in the process. So we had a great chance to have some good conversations. And I will say this: the meetings that we had were like true online meetings that I would typically have with a customer, right? I have this, we want to then enforce this contract. We want to enforce this deal that we created. And we spent all this time creating that deal, putting all the parameters together and things like that as
Yeah.
we put it together. So one of the questions was, how do we enforce this as a best practice in your solution? And we went through that, and the kids, or I shouldn't say kids, but since they're the age of my kids, I say that, but the students were definitely, very eager to, keep coming back to us and, say, all right, did we do it right? Is this how we do it? So I applaud the effort and interest in best practices as well as the technology.
Yeah, I think there's a real need to have students coming out of these programs ready to rock and roll in this digital environment, and that's going to uh, take the whole industry, i.e., the supply chain industry, to the next level, because it's all about skilled individuals that can take advantage of these technologies to be able to bring better results back.
Yeah. Oh, fantastic. So the question next, where does the program go from here?
Oh, this is really exciting.
I
So
figured you have a good answer
once
for
we have it there, I'm actually starting to figure out, it's like, how can I get different classes to start taking different parts of it? So it's not in the one class, but you're actually going outside the classroom and data coming back in. And hopefully, can we make this so it builds upon itself so that the results of one semester is the baseline for the results of the second semester, and we can start looking at trends, we can start looking at negotiation strategies more effectively. And then as I mentioned earlier, what I believe is, as you get digital data and you start bringing everything from logistics into this process, and then the carbon footprint data, and then the opportunities for cost mitigation, risk mitigation structures in place, we start to say, okay, what's the AI engine that is going to be able to look at these trends or help make better decisions faster? So once again, you get people out of this structure and do higher level things. I mean, we now have the opportunity where chatbots are negotiating against each other for all the tail spend, the smaller dollar spends. Again, a lot of work needs to be done. I just don't want it done by my activists. I want it done by the technology, and let the technology handle all of that stuff, get to a reasonable place with good material, and allow the internal customer to be self-service as quickly as possible, so that we can go after the things that actually are going to move the needle. So I think our next conversation, Mike, should be a little bit more about how Vroozi is using AI.
Oh, it will be. We'll definitely do that. We're excited about that too. And actually, it's interesting too. Not only that, but all the backgrounds you mentioned before. You have finance people, you have engineers, you have data scientists, you have all the people that are going to come together and help put this together. And combination with AI, it's going to be a super fantastic program that you're gonna have in the future there. Not
Yeah,
just the future too. It's going to be near term, but that's
yeah,
exciting.
yeah. I went one young lady who's brilliant, and she's sitting there going, "I'm a scientist." And she goes into it, like, I've never seen this before. And I says, well, I'll tell you, you're going to be a part of this whole solution set. And as a scientist, it brings a whole nother perspective because so much of the world is being driven by that next generation science. And it's, if you understand how this all works, you can actually be better as a scientist. You can be better as an engineer. You can be better as a finance person because you realize as I said, 58% of every dollar that comes into a company goes out to your suppliers. You better have control of that supplier because it changes your brand. It changes if your suppliers aren't doing the right things, your brand is going to get hit. And it doesn't take much research online to say how many companies are getting into trouble because their supplier is not doing the right thing. They're in the wrong location. They're not taking care of their employees appropriately. They're actually abusing their employees, or they're making a mess of the environment. All those things that major corporations need to understand all the way down to the beginning of their raw material cycle.
That's fantastic. Do you think the students knew what they were getting into when they came to your class? Like,
Absolutely not.
AI and machine learning and
Next semester they will. This semester it was deer in the headlights. Next semester, all these students have the right to write it up and put in their comments and things like that. So the hope is, and what I'm already receiving is students that want to sign up to the class and get an in as they want to be a part of this going forward.
yeah, that's what I'm envisioning. Like, there's probably students that were talking about it, and now you're gonna have more students than you can handle, probably. But
Well, the good news is all the professors are incredibly competent. I'm at the bottom of the barrel here. So these professors just really understand the concepts. They bring their own expertise into this. So as I see is across the entire spectrum of first and second year students at the undergraduate and graduate level now have access to it. Now the fun part, you and I, Mike, we have to keep on chasing that next step and make it even more interesting and more inclusive. And that's where I want to spend the time.
oh man, I'm excited for that. Really glad to be a part of this. This has been fantastic. And I guess with that, I really want to thank you for doing this for us or with us because it's always good to hear. It was exciting to be a part of it. It's exciting to hear some of this because I didn't, we didn't really debrief on some of these concepts anyway, and the excitement of the students. So it was great to hear the end result. It went well.
Yeah.
It's great to hear the students excited about this, really learning. And like I said, you're gonna make my job a lot easier because when I go into the world and I come across people, your former students, I'll definitely have an easier time with.
Well, that's what I'm here for, Mike. Make your job easier.
Well, yeah, thank you. And I know, you're giving them a leg up. I know when they hit the workforce, they're going to be able to add value right away, and that's just a fantastic.
Yeah, that's the fun part. It really is.
So really applaud that program you put together. Excited to be part of it. Excited to continue to be a part of it, and
Yeah,
push
absolutely.
AI and machine learning limits too.
All right, sounds good.
Hey, Roy, thank you very much. Always great to work with you.
Thank you, Mike. Same.